Hi, my name is Dr. Lisa Fenton, and today I'm going to talk to you just a little bit about a brand new pathway of the outdoor and experiential learning master's degree. But the new pathway would give you a bushcraft aspect to it. So this is pretty new to the academic world to study bushcraft at master's level, and I think very exciting. And the reason is that I think it's a practice that crosses cultural, historical, educational, philosophical areas of inquiry. Um, and on this pathway, you'll study two modules: histories and principles of bushcraft, and also cultures and practices of bushcraft. And what we'll be looking at is a lot of the theory that underpins aspects of bushcraft, such as friction fire. And just right now, I'm just, whilst I talk to you, starting to whip up fire by friction set. Fire by friction is an icon of bushcraft, really. It's what denotes it. It's what we think of when we think of bushcraft. And whilst it's a practice that will be really familiar with most practitioners and anyone that's interested in bushcraft, it's a useful one to look at in terms of theory, and the kinds of theories that we might be looking at, the kinds of lenses or worldviews that we might be looking at in this module. So whilst making friction fire is a skill in itself, we can look at where does it come from, why is it important. We can look at it in terms of a legacy of our entire human evolution. We can look at it in terms of a colonial or post-colonial lens. We can think about when the early European explorers rocked up on the coast of places like Australia, North America, with their view to explore for various reasons: for trade, for resources, and for new lands. And so, for example, when the British explorers rocked up on the shores of Australia, what they saw was terra nullius. They saw an empty land, but what was actually there was a rich, rich culture of Australian Aboriginal culture, and a landscape that had been modified by burning practices, fire stick farming, um, and yet we saw nothing. These peoples didn't register to us, and this is a colonial view, and something that really needs to be picked apart within bushcraft. And what happened there was, it's very similar to what happened in other places like North America when we landed on their shores, was that we needed the indigenous knowledge. European needed indigenous knowledge in order to adjust to those environments. And when you look at the journals, which is what we'll start with in the histories and principles of bushcraft module, when you start to look into the journals of these explorers, and you can start to pull apart how indigenous knowledge seeped into Western knowledge of exploration, and how that actually enabled us to adapt to very alien environments. And so we're going to look at principles such as the post-colonial view that underlie bushcraft practices. We're going to draw a lot from anthropology. We're going to look at the notion of the ethnosphere. That's all the different cultures across the world, all the different ways of viewing the world, different lenses that are completely different from our Western way of seeing things. We're going to look at, we're going to examine land-based practice, of which there are many, and make sure that we're culturally rooting theoretical critique in practice. Continually rooting theoretical critique in practice. So you'll also be asked to carry out a personal and professional practice and be able to critique it and reflect on it in relation to some of the theories we'll be exploring. And so at the end of our time together, I would hope that you'll be able to take any aspect of bushcraft, or indeed look at various indigenous knowledges, and be able to reflect on them in terms of your own practice and understand where they fit in the bigger picture and where they fit with you. Okay, I'm There's so much more I could say about this. I'm just scratching the surface, but do get in contact and do ask more questions. Thank you very much.